Friends and family, welcome to another live broadcast brought to you by Premier's Turning Point, with your host, Bishop Dr. Uton Lane, and co-host, Overseer Franklin Williamson. We pray and hope that something that is being said today will bless your soul and spirit. Please take a quick moment to like and share this broadcast with your friends and family. Thank you again for joining us. Let's go into our live program.
Blessings, one and all, and good evening. Welcome to another day with us on Premier's Turning Point. We're continuing our venture as we share the knowledge and education around right now we're talking about the COVID-19 virus still and keeping you updated. This week we're going to spend most of the time talking about the new vaccine, the Johnson & Johnson version of the COVID-19. We hope to be able to answer all the questions where that's concerned and give out the necessary information. Remember, Premier's Turning Point, we're about information and education and sharing with the people of God and all people everywhere. Also, remember, as a disclaimer, anything we mention on the program, we're not giving out prescriptions or anything like that. I'm a physician, but you do need to speak with your own physician if you have any questions. Speak to your pastor if it's a religious question or a doctrinal issue. So, we're just giving out general information and stating as we see it, but you make sure you check with your higher authorities. So, we thank God again. We have our co-host, Overseer Franklin Williamson, and we're going to let him just say something now as we get going. Amen. We thank you for joining.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining here at Turning Point. We are just an information source, ensuring that we're educating not only the church, but the public in general. And since we're in this pandemic and it's really on top of the minds of our people, as you know, the FDA has approved the third vaccine, J&J for short, the Johnson & Johnson. So today we will talk a little bit about that and also compare them with the Moderna and the Pfizer. All right, so share, like, subscribe, tell a friend. Come on in. Let us see what type of questions you have as we have a great dialogue on this third vaccine that these great United States have in its arsenal as we fight against this disease of COVID-19.
Yes, and yes, please, as Overseer Franklin said, just make sure you like and you join all of our groups, our Facebook group, those who are joining us on YouTube. Please, subscribe, and we just want to share with you and keep moving on. Now, Overseer, I'm going to start out by letting you take a first crack at telling us,
Sure.
And then I will fill in anything that is maybe missing, okay?
You got it. All right. Well, my first question for you that I have here, we know that the Moderna and the Pfizer are mRNA, and we know that the Johnson & Johnson is not developed like that, and as a result doesn't require that aggressive freezing and storage. Can you describe to us from a medical scientific development, what's the difference with the Johnson & Johnson versus the mRNA vaccine we have?
Yes, remember now we've kind of educated you quite a bit on what the mRNA is like, and that system is a messenger RNA that is produced and not from any cells or anything, but genetically produced, and then that vector brings this message into the cell, not into the nucleus, but into the cell, and the cell then reads the message and produces that protein that looks like the coronavirus protein. Then the body responds to that. There is similarities with that with the Pfizer vaccine. However, they use an adenovirus strain, which is a similar virus like what causes a flu. However, this engineered strain does not cause you to have the flu or to have any other issues. But this is just a way of getting this into the cell. So this product is put in, it goes into the cell, and it still has a message protein that is then produced, which looks similar to the other virus. So that's the really probably the key difference. The viral vectors, I'm just going to go over that a little bit, how they work. So viral vector vaccines use a modified version of a different virus. For example, that's called the vector, which is in this case the adenovirus, and to deliver important instructions to our cells. So for the COVID-19 viral vector vaccines, this is Johnson & Johnson, the vector, not the virus that causes COVID-19, but a different harmless virus, will enter the cell in your body and then use the cell's machinery, all right, to produce a harmless piece of virus protein that causes COVID-19, right? So it produces this virus. So this piece is known as the spike protein and is only found on the surface of the virus that causes the COVID-19. So basically, you use an adenovirus, which is weakened and not a harmless, to then carry this message into the system. And then the system cell then produces this piece of viral protein called the spike protein that looks similar basically to the COVID-19 virus thing. So the cells displays the spike protein on its surface, and our immune system recognizes it doesn't belong there. So then this triggers our immune system to begin producing antibodies and activating other immune cells to fight off what it thinks is an infection. So at the end of the process, our bodies have learned how to protect us against future infection with a virus that causes COVID-19. So the benefit is that we get this protection from a vaccine without ever having to risk the serious consequences of getting the actually COVID-19 infection. So any temporary discomfort experience after getting the vaccine is a natural part of the process that you will focus. So that's kind of how the Johnson & Johnson, which is a viral vector vaccine, which just for example, the flu vaccine is this made in most of the general flu vaccines we get are made in a similar way. And then some of our other immunizations, childhood immunizations as well. So in a nutshell, that's kind of putting it all together for you.
All right. Well, thank you. And I got some statistics. The last time someone sent me a message if we could provide them to some statistics. So I got the racial and the ethnic categories for the Johnson & Johnson. As our black and brown folks who often are found hesitant, just wanted you to hear these statistics. It says 58.7% of the clinical trials were white, 58.7%. And then 45.3% are Hispanic or Latino. And then 19.4% are Black or African American. And then from there, now we get down to the single digits, 9.5 American Indian and or Alaska Native. And then 5.6 are multiracial race, and then 3.3 are Asians. And let me give you the sex breakdown. That also was asked about the sex, men versus women. 54.9% were male, and 45% were female. And then there's a 1%, which is undetermined, sex unknown, sex not declared. Now, as far as the age breakdown, 66.5% are from ages 18 to 59. 18 to 59. And then 33.5% are ages 60, and 19.6% are ages 65 or older. And then 3.35 are those who are at 75 years or older. So that gives you the breakdown of the age, the sex, and the racial ethnic background. So I myself, and so is Dr. Ling, both got our shots. I got the Pfizer. When I got my Pfizer shot, the J&J, Johnson Johnson, was not yet available. And more people are opting for the single shot. One is for convenience, right? And instead of returning to the site where you got the first shot, you just take the one shot and you are good and completely immunized. So, Dr. Ling, let's talk about, there has been some, I'm not sure if it's rumor, but some news about how this vaccine was done with the fetal cell. Is there any
Yeah.
evidence?
One thing before we hit on that, just to
Yes.
point out, you said, and if everybody remember from our teaching over the weeks, what
Yes.
percentage of the U.S. population is African American, right? It's around 14%. So they did have, just so you know, in terms of the representation in the studies, and that's what Overseer was talking about, we see that then they were quite adequately represented, probably a little bit more than in some of
Yes.
the others. So I think I bring that point up just to let you realize that they didn't leave the African American population out, but they actually was quite represented in the studies as well. So that's really the reason why we bring you some of these statistics so you can understand and feel comfortable that, they did, put it out there. And then
Great.
to transition to the next point, I definitely, that was one of the issue that a few people, was bringing up. But the studies, from what I've seen, is they did use one of the fetal cell lines, not a cell line that they have developed to do research. And so this was a cell line that goes way back. That it wasn't from an aborted fetus or anything, but just from one of the naturally occurring things. But they have genetically engineered and have a whole bunch of cell lines that they, keep to then use in their various research. So there is a little bit of controversy on some people's part. And as a matter of fact, I lost my article. I was looking for my article. I was reading it a little bit earlier. But
Yes.
the only issues is some people are still, caught up on the fact that they may have used some fetal cells in the development and didn't. These weren't aborted fetus. They didn't purposely infected any normal fetuses or anything like that. This was a cell line that they've been using, that they keep replicating and, having this cell line so that they can do further studies. So that's, that was pretty much the extent of it. Anybody have any more specific questions, feel free to message us or make a comment, and we'll be more than happy to go over that in detail. But that's really, it. And I think various people have various issues that come up where these things are concerned. But even I think the Pope even weighed in on it. I was reading one article saying, from his standpoint, there wasn't any issue. But then there's other people who have some issues. That's about the extent of it.
Mm-hmm. I'm also showing some details that it doesn't contain egg, preservatives, or latex.
Mm-hmm. That's an important point. Important point. Sorry, 1 second. That's an important point because there are some of even our regular vaccines that are on the market now, even the flu shot, they will use, they have been developed some of these vaccines in some of these cell lines like chicken embryo. And therefore anybody and that's where even most of the flu shots and the pneumonia shot that is available now, there are people who have a severe allergy to it. That's one of the questions we ask. Any severe allergy to eggs, then you have to be a little bit cautious because they use those cell lines in their development. But it was very clear with this one that it had no that. And then in terms of the preservative, a lot of immunizations have some kind of mercury as a preservative. And I know that's caused a lot of controversy over time. So I think they were careful that they didn't have any of those issues. So there's no egg-related allergy that you have to worry about. And then also latex, any use of latex in either gloves and any other particles that they use, could then have a potential for latex allergy, which is a very common allergy actually. And, we see quite a few people, we've had some serious infections, like, for example, we need to, what's one of the allergy we ask everybody that you're dealing with, especially in the hospital or any of those cases, because over the years, there's been cases where people have, gone through their surgery and all of a sudden they have an allergic reaction because there was latex gloves involved. So they're very careful about that. So the good news is that, as you're pointing out, in this for this vaccine, there's been none of that they use. And as a matter of fact, there is actually one place where you can look at full list of the ingredients. It's like you can go on the CDC and you can actually get a full list of the ingredients that use from that one site. It lists everything that is possible and potentially in the shot. So it's really very important that you have an understanding of this. Some people may even get a little bit confused and say it's the Janssen vaccine, just so you know, because Janssen is just one of the subsidiary of Johnson and Johnson. So that's the specific group that are making it. So don't be confused if you hear that as well. But allergic-wise, you can really be confident if you have any egg allergy, latex allergy, or any mercury allergies or anything like that. You don't have to be worried about it.
All right. Now, what I didn't see here, the questions that we had from the Moderna and the Pfizer, in the sampling, did they also test those who were present? If
I don't think they did that in their first wave, no. So I think they, all of them, they probably gonna all test that in their second wave of testing, but I don't think they wanted to anything to kind of interfere with moving ahead. So then they will come in the second wave, same thing they're doing with the children. They're testing now at younger ages. Now those testings are in place, and they hope to have vaccines tested and then be of a good word for at least school children from kindergarten, probably from kindergarten up. They're going to hope to have the test done so that they could be immunized before the start of the next school year, most likely.
All right. Do we know the side effects in comparison to the Moderna and Pfizer that will help someone to determine, should I get the Johnson? Why it's only one shot, and maybe that's sufficient enough for me to get Johnson & Johnson, or are the side effects different?
All right. The side effects are actually relatively similar. I mean, and just to recap a little bit, what you should do, mention to your vaccine provider before you get the Janssen vaccine, tell the provider all about your medical condition, of course, including if you have any allergies, if you have a fever, having bleeding disorder, if you're immunocompromised, are pregnant or breastfeeding, and if you have received another COVID-19 vaccine. Those are the pointers that they recommend that you should bring up. Now, who should get the Janssen vaccine? Is that authorized emergency use of that in individual 18 years and older. All right, and who should not get it? You should not get it if you have a severe allergic reaction to any ingredient of the vaccine that I told you about before. And the ingredients that we mentioned, it includes the recombinant replication in component of the adeno of a specific adenovirus type 26 that expresses the SARS protein, citric acid, monohydrate, trisodium citrate, ethanol, to HBCD and all the stuff. And basically, it's a given as an injection into the muscle, and it is really a single dose. And the reason it is because now it's a kind of vector and thing that brings it into the cell that we seem to, to make sure we're having, everything, you can, right? Making sure that all of the parts are there. So as long as that is in place, then you shouldn't have too much of an issues, right? And basically, what are the benefits? In an ongoing clinical trial, the vaccine has been shown to prevent the COVID-19 following a single dose. The duration of protection is currently unknown, so they're working on that, and they're looking into that. Now, what are the risk of the vaccine? The side effects have been reported. These are them include injection site reaction with a little pain, redness, and maybe a little swelling, which is quite similar, as you and I know, to getting the other vaccines. Injection site pain, redness, as I said. General side effects include headache, feeling very tired, muscle aches, nausea, and potentially fever. And there's a remote chance that the vaccine would cause a severe allergic reaction, just as with the others. They have not seen any definite, but there's always a chance of that. For this reason, your vaccination provider may ask you to stay at the place where you receive it for at least 15 minutes or a little bit longer. Now, what would be the signs of a severe allergic reaction? That will include difficulty breathing, swelling of your face and throat, fast heartbeat, bad rash all over the body, dizziness, and weakness. So that would be with any of the vaccines, those would be the signs that you're looking for. But the general side effects are really pretty similar to the others, which is usually the main side effect, because it would seem to be similar with all of them. Some pain, maybe redness, a little swelling at the site of infection. For example, with the Moderna, I mean, I probably had a little bit of pain and swelling for about 2 days, but I didn't have anything else. I didn't have fever. That I find a lot of the time with the second dose, and Pastor can tell us about that. I see more complaints of the fever and maybe a little lethargy, sometimes a little bit of diarrhea. That's been the complaints after the second dose of both the Pfizer and the Moderna. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I did the Pfizer. Yes, and the second shot had more of a tenderness at the injection site as opposed to the first. And also what I did, I didn't have both shots in the same arm, right? So I had one in the right, one in the left. And I really felt the second one had more of a tenderness in the arm. And that was it. I'm now, 3-4 weeks and doing well. And looking forward to still follow the protocols, wearing the mask, social distance, wash my hands, and continue on to make sure that that I'm following the guidelines. And I want to encourage my fellow pastors. The members look to you, and your voice count. And encourage those who are able to, and create avenues and inroads to allow the vaccine easier access to your members. I myself got mine. I made it publicly, announced it to the body of Christ, and we have also been doing our best to reach out to our seniors and making sure that they too have access to this vaccine. So wherever you are, I know New York City have these mega sites now, and some requires appointment, some don't. And I think if you are at a certain age and you pull up at the site, they will actually accommodate you. It's now open 24/7, the Yankee Stadium, the Armory in Westchester, Lower Westchester. So there are many sites that are available. And you have options. You could choose the Johnson & Johnson, you could choose the Moderna or the Pfizer. But as I always say, check with your PCP, your primary care physician. He or she will be the best one to direct you. As we go about, as you see the city and the government, they're releasing all the COVID protocols, but you want to make sure that you take care of you and that even those who are around you. You won't know if you're vaccinated, but you will know if you are vaccinated, and make sure that you are taking this vaccine to help to protect those who you come around very often. One statistics I read, and it was alarming to me, 25% of the folks who contracted the virus, it came from those who were asymptomatic and not knowing it. So also for those who may not feel comfortable yet taking the vaccine, I want to encourage you to get tested frequently so you can know if you are active or a carrier, and it will help to give some level of peace of mind All right. So if you're not ready for the vaccine, get the test. And I will say to you, the test that we got back in March, April, and May, where the swab went all the way back, now it's just a mid nasal swab, and it's not painful. It's not painful anymore. So don't listen to the myths. All right, experience it yourself, and then you can let someone know your experience. All right. So we thank you. We thank you.
Yes, it's one question on the line was which vaccine do we recommend? And I actually recommend whichever one you can get right now. You're right. The Pfizer and the Moderna seem to be more effective. However, from the studies, the Janssen or J&J is still effective enough that it's going to protect you against serious disease. It's going to protect you to even the moderate disease. And I think with time, we'll have a better understanding, of what the other thought. One of the thought with the Johnson vaccine is that it was like tested a little bit after some of the other variants came around. So it may actually be one of the reasoning why it may be not as effective. And we're not sure, what will turn up with some of the other ones as we see various other variants. Time is going to tell. And also remember, at some point in time, you may need a booster. Even if you got the double shot, the 2-shot version, they will be able to figure that out over the course of probably about 6 months. We'll know what is going on. They'll be still tracking both the people who have been exposed to the virus and those who have gotten the shots. They will be tracking over time to see what level of immunity we still have 6 months or so from now. So it's important that you also keep abreast of what is happening. In the short term, I still think everybody, as Overseer was really mentioning, everybody need to get tested and to be sure that you're negative, and also to still wear your mask, still be doing all the protective things that are there, because there's still some unknowns. For example, if I've had both of my shots, after Overseer has both of his shots, now so I come in contact with a person who has the virus. All right, I may get the virus, maybe I'm exposed. Do I then still carry active virus in my nasal passages? I think some of that stuff we're going to have to figure out. Yes, it's not going to affect me personally because I have now antibodies and I'm going to fight it off. But now, they say I was exposed and then I go amongst somebody who has not had their shots, never had virus, or can they actually get the virus from me? We don't have the answer for that as yet. So I think, especially if you're not immunized, if you're not and or have not have had it, you definitely should be protecting yourself still 100% with the mask and that. And Overseer, I mean, I have to say, I'm still quite depressed every time I looked at the television, and even especially mostly I look at his church programs. You see people just walking around like nothing. And my other little pet peeve, they're a minute they go up to, I was watching a funeral that was taking place in New York just 2 nights ago. Everybody who comes up to the microphone takes off their mask. I mean, you take off your mask the time you should more be putting it on. And it's like it's like this has been ingrained that everybody does this. I mean, you can take 10 programs, look at 10 programs on Sunday. Probably 9.5 of them are gonna come up there and take off their masks. Yes, they're doing some cleaning in between, but the most times that you're gonna be, spreading is when you're speaking, when you're singing, definitely when you're preaching. Those are the times I think you're gonna be, spewing at a further distance that people could be exposed. So I think, we still need to be aware of all of this, aware of our surroundings, where we are, we're aware of who is in the room with us, and still making sure that we're doing all of these things to try to protect. All right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and to speak to that, the aerosols are still in the air, right?
Yes.
And you're
Yes.
walking in right behind that person, and that's
Yeah.
where it becomes very, very dangerous. And
Yeah.
I just want to, what I do, Dr. Lang, I do see those videos, but then I go back and look to see if I can identify the date when that
Yeah.
video was filmed. Because
Hmm.
is that pre-COVID or is
No, no, no.
that?
I'm talking about those people now who are
I
going up.
know.
You see them. No, you see them walk up though with the mask, and the
Oh, and
minute
then
they get up to the podium, they take them off. I mean, I am like cringing in my seat or anywhere I'm sitting. I'm like, what are they? Because it's COVID time because everybody has a mask on. But the
right.
minute they make it up to the forefront, if they're reading the scripture, if they're praying, if they're preaching, most definitely, here comes the mask right off. It's funny. I was saying that funeral I was watching is 2 nights ago. I know it was a funeral that was just taking place. Somebody I knew passed, but everybody, they walk up there, they take their mask off, and of course, because they see everybody else does it, it's like everybody just, oh, this is what you're supposed to do. But think about it: the time when you're most likely to, if you're infected, to spread the virus is when you're speaking, when you're singing, when you're, anything that is when you're coughing. Of course, no, if you cough, but I mean, singing, talking forcefully probably will gonna do as much spread as coughing. And I think you're right. And then the aerosol. It's aerosolized, especially the smaller particles. The bigger ones are probably going to drop boom to the floor, or bounce off of their plexiglass. But the small particles are floating around, and it's a whole mess that is going on there. So I think it still beholds us to be careful, be watchful, and we're looking out for one another. And I know Pastor Lang, we're watching when some people they take the microphone from a person without even cleaning it. I think we're kind of getting lax. And because yes, it's just a fatigue of having to do this. I understand, but I have seen too many families where this goes is it sneaks in one person and the whole house is laid down. It's causing people to be missing work. Yes, you may get some disability pay, but disability pay is only 2/3 of what you usually get. Same thing, So people are struggling because they're now out of work because of just some carelessness that caused the spread of the virus even more. So I think I can't preach it enough that we got to keep on the it's kind of like keeping on the fire line. We're going to keep on the mask line, the hand washing line. We got to keep all of that in place, until, we get really the goal ahead, because we have now either immunized at least 70%, and everybody is now, much better off. Because trust me, we may not have seen, thank God, I did have one death in my family, but away from that, I've seen a lot of also all across the board people dying. But there's families who are devastated. There's a wiped out total families. There's wiped out total churches. I mean, I've seen the one story I heard, almost the whole church, and gone. Okay, if you count how many bishops and everybody have died since this COVID started, it's a lot. So I
Yes.
think we don't want to take it lightly, but we want to be concerned and then show it by our actions. So that's the point I was making. Yeah.
Now, another thing that folks are concerned with, the efficacy. They see 94.5 and 95, Moderna, Pfizer, and then here comes Johnson & Johnson with 65, 67% efficacy. How
Yeah.
can it be so and still be
Well,
good for
but remember now, the other ones are great. But even with most of think about our other general vaccines that we have, most of them are like 67, 70%. So it's not that this is really horrible, but it's probably, as I said, a couple of the reasoning is either, when it was, the studies were done, more the variants were out that may have been not, catching, but the key pointers with this is, even though most vaccines at 70% effectiveness is very good. So that's the other point, even some other things. Yes, so it'd be definitely much better than having no protection. It's going to be a lot better, 70% better than having no protection. And the key point is the severe disease is it says 90% effective in, those severe cases. And it is reduced, that is causing the hospitalizations and those people on the vent is quite affected in that group. So I think, it's the ease of it. I mean, and trust me, when you come down to it, when you look over the whole world, once they ramp up the production, I think is going to be the most one that's given in a lot of places over the world because of the ease of getting it there and not having all the big restrictions, so
Yeah, yeah.
and so
So,
the other good point that you should keep in mind is now with the Janssen of this vaccine, even if say they made a mistake and took it out, yeah, I mean, and then have it then sat it because the other ones they're taking them out of the freeze, put them in the regular fridge till they're just about to use them. But the Janssen, even if they left it out in the fridge the whole day, still fine.
yeah,
You remember there's a group of people with some of the other ones that they have to revaccinate because
yeah,
those were probably left out too long. You shouldn't have that major problem with the vaccine, with transporting and, taking care. Even the whole process of how you mix it. The other ones, you can't shake. There's a lot of things goes into that, which you could see, will decrease the amount of availability and also just the ease of, getting it into the person. hmm So I think in the long run, it's probably it's adequate and more than adequate to prevent major disease and to get us all protected. And I'm sure they're gonna work on improving that as we go along as well.
all right. And as you mentioned, I think it's important to restate it that the length of immunity is still unknown, right? For any one
hmm
of these three vaccines. So your
Yes.
vaccine today, is it 6 months, a year? That is still unknown, correct?
No,
Or,
that is still unknown, but I think over the course of this year, they should give us a word because they're going to be retesting, checking the antibody status of people along the way so they can come up with a good plan. The hope is that these things will cover us for at least a year. And then most likely, and potentially like the flu shot, you'd have to get a rebooster every year, but we'll figure that out. And remember, this is kind of like, and I brought this up before, how do we decide what flu shot to give you each year? It's a statistical analysis that predicts what strains are going to be most common. And that's why even when you get the flu shot, you could still get the flu because say they missed and then another strain that didn't get covered is the one that's dominant, then you could see that. I think about probably 2 years ago, remember about 2 years ago, a lot of people still even getting the flu shot had the flu, and
yeah,
that was because again they made a little statistical, probably most likely didn't predict the most common strain. So all of that we're going to learn with time. Is it going to be that one strain is going to dominate? And of course, if say this particular vaccine is not covering that strain well, they're going to then engineer to get that covered, and then you may have to get another shot each year depending on what strain. So all of this have to be worked out. And we also mentioned about, I know I did see a recommendation if you have had the actual coronavirus, yes or no, whether you should get a shot. It is
yeah,
a yes, you should get the shot. Maybe you want to wait a month or two. The other reasoning why you should still get a shot is, we're not sure what strain unless they figured out what strain you actually had, by doing testing. We're not sure which strain you had, and so therefore there may be strains around that you may not be immune to. So it's a lot involved with this, and I think as I was saying to one other program I was on, I think it's safe to say we should all wear a mask at least for the rest of this year and maybe a little bit into 2022 based on what is going on. Once we sure everybody is covered, we get to learn a lot more about what strains are, well covered by the different shots, whether we have to get a booster, whether we have to get another shot. Once all of that is worked out, I think then we can probably be relatively safe. But actually, I'm one of those who would probably propose, going forward, especially, even just for the regular flu, because I know I'm rambling a little bit, but we have seen a decrease this year in the amount of flu. And some of the people are saying, oh, well, that's because, some of the corona. No, the people who are sick, and once you go to the doctor, you're getting tested for the coronavirus. So we know, and actually, a lot of times what I do, I test for both. Now, the person comes in, because there's it's in the same swab. They can do both tests, and therefore, and I've seen a lot less of the flu, overall this year comparatively. And I think it's that people are wearing the mask, and is not only is it giving us protection when it comes to the coronavirus, but I think it's protecting us even against the flu. And I think
Yeah,
that's something to be learned, from that.
yeah, and I did hear some numbers on that, Dr. Lang,
Yeah,
that about
yeah.
200 plus deaths
Hmm.
prior to COVID from the flu, and this year's only one.
Yeah.
So since COVID, only one death on record
Yeah.
from the flu. Prior
Yeah.
to that, average was
Hmm.
200. So that's
Yeah.
a dramatic,
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
dramatic,
Yeah.
as
I
we,
mean, and I think other years we'll get a little bit more of those research. You'll see a little bit more of that the course of the year. But I think, as a matter of fact, I was reading in I think China, and probably also in Japan, a lot of them, the flu, they wear masks for the flu seasons as a way of decreasing the amount of flu. So they were used to wearing masks even before this COVID thing came along. And of course, a lot of times people are, oh, look at them. Listen, if I could do something as simple as putting on a mask, as long as it's not bothering me, and I'm going to decrease the incident of the flu, I'm going to decrease the incident of the coronavirus, I'm going to decrease the spread, I would do it. I think people, we've gotten so much into our freedoms that, everything that is proposed, even if it's not mandated, is a, well, they want us to do this, they're making me do this. I mean, for example, I'm not trying to get political, but how irresponsible are those states who have dropped the mask mandate, just because they want to, say they're going against the grain, just because, how irresponsible. And then now, the thing is, when we see, and we will see, resurgence and a surge back in the incidence of these diseases here, they're then going to look to the government, which is us, to then help them out with that. So how irresponsible is it for us to go around and say, all right, I'm not going to wear a mask, I'm not going to do this. If I get infected, I get infected. If I have to go in the hospital, I go in the... Now, think about it. That's irresponsible. That is, downright just being a rebel and just trying to, stir things up. I mean, and I'm actually one of those I'm appealing to those people in those states that the governors are going to do this. You go, you start calling them, blow up their phones tomorrow by calling them, everybody, and email them and tell them it's irresponsible. Because I think, when they hear that, they will make a difference, because it's, they're just thinking about, being politically correct. And because they want to deny the virus, they're going to try to do all of this. It's irresponsible. I don't care what anybody has to say. Anybody who's not using their noodles to protect their people is not making the right move. And that's
and
my
the,
little stance today.
yeah, and the other side to that too, those states, they've also showed a high level of hesitancy of taking the shots. So they're not even
Yes.
protecting the shots. So they're not
Mm-hmm.
taking the shot and they're not wearing the
Mm-hmm.
mask. And let
Mm-hmm.
me ask this question that came in. For those who have these allergies and, asthma, the breathing
Mm-hmm.
complications, what saving grace do they have, since none of these vaccines that are coming out is able for them to actually take the vaccine?
Yeah, it's not that they can't take the vaccine. They need to take the vaccine. For example, my daughter who has a severe peanut allergy, what I said to her is she's registered. She will tell them, for example, for her, she'll bring her EpiPen with her. She goes, and she will most likely get it in a place where they have emergency services. So it's not like they cannot take the vaccine. They just have to be prepared if they have a severe reaction, that we can take care of it and take care of it quickly. So it's not that, so that's why then the talk to these people need to speak to your physician, your primary
Yeah.
care physician, your allergist if you have one. Speak to them about how is the best way for you to go about in getting that shot. And I think those people they want to do under more controlled circumstances, those are the people who probably should get it in a hospital, for example, or a place, because even I noticed even the church where I got mine, they had emergency services right there.
Right,
because,
right.
they take all that. Because remember now, a person who has never had an allergic reaction could potentially get an allergic reaction. Because remember now, for example, so, my wife used to eat jackfruit for years. She was fine.
Yeah.
She went to Jamaica a couple years ago, ate jackfruit, and just had a major allergic reaction. So you can develop allergic reactions over time. So this is why don't push it. And it's not like they locked us in the room, but they're like, you got to sit here for 15 minutes. At
Mm.
15 minutes, you can approach me, then I'll let you go. So this is this. So the same thing. If you know you have an allergic reaction, first you tell everybody. Number
Yes.
two, you take whatever precautions. If you have a severe enough allergic reaction, you should be walking with an EpiPen, all right, which is an epinephrine pen, which you would then administer yourself a shot right away at the first sign of any kind of severe reaction. That can buy you a lot of time, and would probably help you to survive even if you have a bad reaction. Some Benadryl, and all of the places that give shots have all of
Right.
this stuff, initially available. But the key point again is communication and letting everybody know I've had an severe allergic reaction. They would advise you, is this place appropriate for you to get the shot? I probably wouldn't go to a pharmacy, and get
Right.
the shot if I know I've had a severe allergic reaction before. I would go to a place that has the necessary services available. Mhm.
I, I
Mhm.
think that really is a controlled
Yeah,
environment that is really
exactly.
able to deal with any type of reaction. So therefore, you
Yeah,
could remove the fear. Great, great, great.
yeah,
So,
yes, yeah.
all right,
Hmm.
all right. I think you got a question coming in there. Look at that,
Hmm.
Bishop. Someone
All
coming in.
right. All right, let's see here. All right, all right. What about someone with shellfish allergy? Well, that would be the same thing kind of with any algae. It's there's no specific shellfish uh, components in any of these vaccines, from what I've seen. However, if you've had a severe reaction, like an anaphylactic reaction where you had a body rash, can't breathe, we would treat that like a severe allergy. And the same thing stands. You would make sure you inform the facility, that you have had an allergy. If you have an EpiPen, you bring that with you wherever you're going. You would then probably be observed for a little bit longer than the 15 minutes.
Yeah,
But again, a controlled environment is what the person with any kind of major allergy would need. And I mean, when I say that is, it could be, yes, it could be in the Javits Center, but I'm sure all of the big mega centers have emergency services set up. I'm sure of it.
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
basically, the key point is telling someone that you have an allergy and whether you've
Yes,
had an anaphylactic reaction. Now, what's an anaphylactic reaction? A severe allergic reaction where you have breathing problems, your throat is swollen, you can't breathe, and you have to have intervention to prevent that. So that is the key point that you need to be aware of. And if you've ever had anything like that, make sure you're ready to share that information. Hmm.
yes.
So that's
Yeah.
really, so any kind of reaction could be that. All right. Okay, let's see.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Any other question? Okay, I can. My wife was saying now they're fearing another major outbreak in Florida because of spring break. Because
Uh,
the spring break festivities have started, and
yeah.
you're seeing people who are clad in like no clothes at all, but bundled up all over the beaches. And trust me, again, and don't be fooled. A lot of these states, one of the reasons why they took away these mandates, just before spring break, they're just looking at the tourism and trying to get people, lure them to their states. Listen, there's
Yeah.
nothing done by most of these people. They are thinking through this. They're sleeping and thinking, how can I do this? How can I do that? And a lot of these things, we're thinking as innocent as just stupidity, but it's more a planned stupidity, because they're planning out these things, to get the desired end that they're looking for. And I think we just have to use our brains, and we need to start acting like the people of, for us, for example, the people of God who, the Lord has given us the knowledge, and we're going to use it to help not just ourselves, but to help our fellow men. And that's why Turning Point is about giving that out. And if you see that, I get a little agitated and a little bit passionate at times, because I'm
Yeah.
passionate about people getting the best care, passionate about people, getting the right information, passionate about all of that. And I'll be definitely be a voice speaking out about those things. I mean, and we're not trying to be political. I want everybody to understand that. But if we see something that is wrong, it doesn't matter which party, we're going to talk about it, because we need you to have the best, quality life you're going to have. And the best way to do that is to get all the information that you can, And I'm sure Overseer is not going to get political on the side, but he's going to help us. Yeah?
No, I won't. I won't. But as you said, passion, and what I've seen is, it's the prophets over the people. And I've also, looking back, most of the protocols are lifted seasonally. So we had February 14th, Valentine's. So we want to get your loved ones out there. So we open up the indoor dining. Now, spring, you mentioned, now we're going to open it up so we can get, everyone back into the city during this time when the great population is off. So we just got to be careful. And what we see they're not doing is following the science. They're not following the data. And that's the sad part about it, because the data is not yet available. So we see the trend going in the right direction. Why stop doing what we know is working? And as you said, not making it political, but let's, like I would say this for my church. I told the executive body that even when the city says we can now go 100%, I said, I'm not ready to do that. I'm not ready to do that yet, because folks are still dying at an alarming rate. We haven't had herd immunity. Folks are still hesitant taking the vaccine. And even the members are still having, folks in their families, schools getting outbreaks, and all of these things are still happening. So how can we go back to normal when the environment is not normal?
Yep. It's really, you're really right about that, so we have to use wisdom.
Yes.
You got to use wisdom and do that. And I know we want to get people back to work. We want to get the children back to school. We want to get our churches. As a matter of fact, just so you know, back in Jamaica, they actually just went backwards because they have so many cases that they went back to church or only allowed 10 people.
Yes, and they shut down funerals until May 22nd.
And they've shut down a lot of stuff. So you see, I think you can't push it too fast. And you can, do that. There was one question on the line, when this last time the CDC updated their information. They kind of are updating their information almost daily, on their site. I have looked up. I mean, they have not come out with any new recommendations. So that actually hasn't been since about 2 weeks ago that they made their major recommendation, but their site and their information are actually updated pretty much daily. And, when I do look at it and kind of keep up to breast on it if there's anything new that is there, but they're really trying their best. And I think what we're finding now is we're seeing a lot more, transparency, I think, with what's going on. And, everything is, just being out there. They even keep a track of how many doses are distributed, how many doses have been administered now. That's up to about 87 million. And they really are recommending. They haven't made any new recommendation about schools and all of that in about 2 weeks, but I think they're probably going to get ready pretty soon when they see how fast the total administration is going. So I think as a function of that, they're kind of making recommendations as they go along as a function of how many people are immunized. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one new recommendation they made was double masking. That was pretty new. That they sanctioned. And we all know, hey, if one mask of the same grade can do 50%, then we know two will do twice as much. So I don't think we need the CDC to actually sanction that for us, right?
And actually, they're also kind of talking about, I mean, if you're doing the N95, you probably would be all right. But it also is a lot of these, homemade masks and all of the things that, in case, I think it's better if you're doing those, it's probably better that you double mask. And even also for comfort too, because what I think sometimes even with the N95, some people are not as comfortable, but maybe if you have your regular little cloth one under there and then put that over it for your comfort,
Yes.
maybe better. So I think it's, everybody have to try out to see, what works best for them. There was a question on the line about how long after you receive the vaccine are you covered. We kind of covered
Yeah.
that a little bit, but I'll just re-mention that it's still not clear how long the immunity is lasting. They're hoping it's about a year at least, but I think more studies is going to tell us, give us that answer. So for the person with that answer, with that question, it's going to take a little bit more time. Stay tuned. And then as soon as we get more information, we'll definitely share that with you. So in the meantime, though, as I was saying before, you still got to protect yourself. You still got to, make sure that you are, covering, yourself as much as you can in terms of wearing the mask, double mask when you have to. I mean, if you work in a place that, you're more likely to be exposed, go into a warfare mode when you come home, hopefully in a secret place, take off most of your clothes, before you get in your, as soon as you get in the house, put them aside. You're going to do all those things to stop spreading, because the one thing I've seen too much of is, and I want to make a little point about it. If you're in your household, you may have your mom, your dad in a different household. Treat them as they are not your family for right now. And what do I mean by that? Don't go over, don't mingle, don't, because I've seen too many of that. This cross infection, I've seen tons of it. This one household have it, but because they're family members, they go over here. You have to quarantine when you know that you're exposed. If you're even questioning being exposed, start the quarantine process, get tested, and then work, talk with your physician who's going to help you direct you as to, yes, this is, you probably work exposed, you're not. Trust me, almost everybody who I predicted that was going to be positive was positive based on the story. All right.
Yeah.
So it's
Well,
not based on the story. It's not hard to figure if the person will be. So you quarantining is important. And one thing I want to say is for some of you people who are traveling, and again, this may be calling out some people I know. You're going to Jamaica or wherever you're going, you need to follow their rules and quarantine. Don't leave your cell phone at home, because that's how they track you in Jamaica. Don't leave the cell phone. So what the people are doing, they're leaving the cell phone at the house, and then they're all over the place. And they're spreading. So for example, Jamaica is now, the last time I heard, 24,000 cases and about a 13% infection rate. And
no, it's
what's
high.
coming from? Is high now? Is high? Okay, well, the last number I heard, yeah. So can you imagine that? So therefore, this is why they have to almost shut down. So you're not doing anybody a service. Either just don't go, or if you go, follow the rules. Stay, follow the rules. I talked to one of my friends from Barbados. He won't even go home, because he says, even though he has his house there, well, if you hit the ground in Barbados, they put you away for 2 weeks. They quarantine you. They don't actually, so if you go, so you don't want things to get like that. So you need to use your noodles and follow rules, follow the laws of the land, and try to help out.
Well,
Last words, overseer.
Yeah, no, I also had a huddle with my family, and I said to my family, if I ever became contagious with this COVID, I would actually call the city and get put up in a hotel and quarantine myself, make sure I'm not bringing it home to the family. And
Exactly.
it's just that I want to make sure that the family's okay and the church family's okay. And it's not something that I would do in secret. It's not something to do in secret, right? This virus is not respect to a person. This virus is not because of your carelessness, right? So just be prudent, as you said, be wise. And I encourage everyone, we're still in the pandemic. We are still in the pandemic. The numbers are showing that. The numbers are proving that. So as we continue on, we are now in the month of March, and we were hoping that after a year, just on the 1st of March, there was one case in New York City, in America. Now look at what's happening across the globe. So don't underestimate this COVID. I know many people We're not here to strike fear in your heart. Amen. We're not here to make you want to shelter and bunker down. But we know, based upon the science, what works. That top 5. Always that top 5. Wear your mask and wear the mask properly. We have demonstrated how to wear this mask properly. I'm going into supermarkets and I'm seeing people just having the mask below their nose. I'm like, when you take a COVID test, where do they take the test from? From your nostril. So why do you have your nostrils exposed? Cover it up. And then also make sure it's covering your nose, your mouth. And please wash your hands and don't wash it for 2 minutes. Don't wash it, for half a second. Wash your hand thoroughly. And they say, do what? Say the happy birthday song. But I always tell my church, say the Lord's Prayer and get between the fingers, get beneath the nails. And after you wash, social distance, and avoid the crowd, and avoid the crowd.
And for all of our ministers and pastors, you may think I'm crazy, but I actually preach in my mask. All right. And I tell anybody coming in to speak in our ministry, you need a mask. So I am encouraging the praise teams, you need a mask. So I think we have to start really being realistic, because most of these praise teams, that's the other thing we're watching over the weeks. Praise teams are not related. Some of them, maybe 1 or 2, but 3 and 4 of them huddle up there singing, no mask. So I think we need to think this through, be smart about it, pray about it if you'd like, go right ahead, fast and pray, ask God, should I not wear a mask? I'm sure it's going to tell you wear one, but if that's how you feel like. But we thank you for joining us today. We just want to let everybody know that on the 20th, we are going to do a COVID update. We have the Central Jersey Clergy Association who wants to join in with us. And so we're going to do a combined program where we'll be hosting and have a couple of their leaders on. And we will then try to go over just a general update, what's going on. By then, we should have more answers on some of the questions that we have. And we'll be more gladly to share those with you. So we thank you for joining us today on Premier's Turning Point. Please join us every week and go to the Premier Family Lives YouTube page and please like and share. And subscribe. Go to our Facebook page, subscribe, and just let the Lord, have His way and lead and guide. I thank God so much for my co-host, Overseer. He's just awesome, and have somebody to throw things around with. And, I'm glad we made this move, and we'll be doing our endeavor to give you the information. So God bless you. Have a wonderful week. Have an awesome time. Those who are in the service, online, wherever you are. And one thing, as I'm going to preach tomorrow, make sure you're giving, because there's a bunch of people who think because they're not in the building, they shouldn't give anything. So I will talk a little bit about that. If you listen to our service, you'll hear about that tomorrow. But in the meantime, even for this program, we're trying to reach the masses. Feel free to donate and just to, join with us. So God bless you. God bless you. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.
Turning Point family, what an awesome time we just had. To all our first-time guests, we truly appreciate you for joining our live broadcast. We would like to hear from you, so please send us your comments, questions, or testimonies of how this program has impacted your life. Our email address is info@pflmi.org. Finally, if you feel led at any time to give to this ministry, please visit us at pflmi.org and click on the tab for donations. You can also give via Cash App at $PFLMIORG. We're looking forward to meeting with you live on next week's program. Have a blessed and prosperous weekend.